see what the current ladies have to say about the role of the church in each of their lives. Hi, ladies.
Hi.
Welcome. So glad to have you here today. I know the church is super important to at least one person, and that's you, Lady Deborah.
Wonder why.
So tell us why the church is important to you.
Well, I'm married to a pastor.
Yes.
And for at least 30 years of my life, I have been actively engaged at the Hope Church. And it's just what we do on a daily basis.
Yeah. Can you imagine life without the church?
I can't imagine life without the church. And I cannot imagine life without my church.
Right.
I realized that my church is probably, I want to believe it's special, and that every church is not the same as mine.
That's true.
And I believe that I was called to this place and to the ministry of the Hope Church. And so, no, I can't imagine my life without the church.
But a lot of people can imagine life without the church. And some people even have to be home. And I know I'm talking to a lot of people who are homebound out there, or maybe, some people, unfortunately, I've heard stories they're on their deathbed and have to watch the church from their homes. And so, it's sad to me when you can't be in a community, because community is super, super important. But we're also very blessed to be able to have those of you who watch church at home and know that that's the only church that you have, and that's fine too. What about the rest of you all?
I mean, many years ago, if you didn't go to church, if you couldn't go to church, that was it. You weren't able to get any kind of spiritual nourishment or whatnot.
Yeah.
And now there's podcasts, and there's, you can be in church, you can listen to it on the radio, you can watch it on television.
Yes.
So,
TV 45.
TV 45, yes.
And on your app, too, you can download, right?
Yeah.
That's true.
Google Play and Apple now.
We stream our services on Sunday.
Yeah, on the internet, right.
Right, and that's something that we just started this year. Barbara, we have over 200 people that tune in to that show on Sunday. And this is on Facebook. This is not even counting people that may tune in on the app and things like that, because we have a new app that we launched. But it's an amazing way for the church to still be able to be relevant in people's lives and get the message of Jesus Christ out.
Yeah, and I will say for me, just to be in the Word is just like somebody giving me a drug every day. I don't know how people make it without hearing the Word, because I need to hear the words of Jesus and the words of the Bible speak hope to me. But it was funny because, I do believe in the church. I believe, but there's a lot of people out there who have been hurt by the church, been hurt by things that have happened in the church. And I think it's real important, as we're talking about this today, to let people know that, please, if you can, give it another chance, because you've got to separate the pain that you had from people from Jesus. And there is a difference. And I know all of us probably have our own stories of how we've been hurt by things. But, it's funny because in doing this today, I studied Matthew 16. He said, upon this rock, and he was talking to Peter, he says, I will build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. And it really hit me hard, because I started asking myself, what does he mean, my church? And so I called my husband. I said, can you just look up, let's just do a little study here real quick of what my church is. And I got to read this to you. In Greek, the word means ekklesia or ekklesia. I'm not good at it. It says, but it's a local gathering of believers belonging to the Lord. And to me, I want to be a part of that church. First, that I'm belonging. We belong somewhere, and we belong to the Lord. And boy, when somebody says that, I want to be a part of church, because I want to be a part of something that belongs. But it's what you said. I don't have to go to a place, even though the Bible says, do not forsake yourself, the gathering, so we can encourage one another and lift one another up. But if they can't, boy, getting on and watching your podcast and hearing, I feel like I go to 10 churches, because I'm getting them from everywhere all times of the day, because I want to glean. But then it's important for us to be in the Word ourselves and allow the Lord to speak and reveal things to our own life.
Well, and that's why I definitely think the church is still relevant. And I think one of the greatest parts is that we should all be able to find some kind of church that ministers or speaks to us that's biblically sound. There's some churches that are more contemporary. There's other churches that are very traditional and do a lot of liturgy. And different people have different needs. And so I love that in today's day and age, really there's an ability to find the best place where we can serve and the place where God has called us to be in community with one another.
See, I think that's important to remember, that it is a two-edged sword. We go to church thinking, well, I didn't get anything out of church today. I didn't get, it's all for me. It's all about me. No, it's not. It's all about what you are giving as well. So, yeah, go to church and get fed and get the word and worship and all of that, but also go with a mindset that says, I'm going to meet somebody else's need today, and I'm going to do something when I go to church. How do you all answer the question when people say, I don't go to church because it's just filled with a bunch of hypocrites?
Yeah.
Leanne has to talk. Leanne does not. She never gets to talk. I'm her advocate. It's Leanne's turn. Hold it.
We keep looking over at her like, go, jump in.
Okay, what I was going to say before you talked about the whole hypocrisy thing is I am a pedestal putter. So I tend to put people on pedestals. And I have learned over the time, I've put different preachers, lots of different people. I will put anybody. You can get up there if you want. But God goes to great lengths to rip them off the pedestals.
That's good, man.
And that one time I was thinking about church and I was like, I really don't want to go. So-and-so's not preaching. And it was so incredibly selfish. And I think we all get that way. That, again, I love the scripture. It's God's church. And God is speaking through each of the people. And we've allowed our kids a couple Sundays not to go to church, like physically get dressed and go to church. And I always feel this guilt because I grew up every Sunday. It wasn't a choice. But some of those Sunday mornings, we have turned on TV 45. We heard an incredible preacher just 2 weeks ago, and I was amazed. And we really did have our small worship. So I think we just need to be in worship with each other, whether it's in your living room or whether it's with a whole church and a whole congregation. But connecting with people is so important. And there is something really holy about, getting up and getting dressed, getting in the car and honoring the Lord by walking into his house, wherever it is, even if it's in a gym or wherever. So that's my 2 cents. Thanks for letting me.
All right, Kristen.
Let's see. No, I was just going to say, in talking about the hypocrisy as well, is that I think I so appreciate vulnerability. I appreciate when people are honest about their failures and their flaws, and I appreciate being around those people because I'm full of failure and flaws. And I feel like our church that we go to, my church, is that way. We really there's an openness, there's a desire to reach out to other people who are hurting. And I think there have been times with churches in the past, churches that maybe we've belonged to, or just an older traditional church without this kind of current movement, where it did seem kind of like everyone had to put on a pretense. You had to look a certain way, you had to act a certain way. And I just want to encourage the viewers out there that there are churches that, many churches, great churches, who would love for people to come and attend and be part of the body and the fellowship, we're just a bunch of broken people looking for love and acceptance and the ability to be in community with one another.
But I love how you said that, because you hope there is a different church for everybody. But the important thing is that we go and that we are relatable. I mean, I know for me, I can't wait to get to church just to do worship, because I can't wait to love on others. I think you've got to change your expectation of what church is about. And I think that we have to lower some of these things. I know it's fun to get dressed up, but there's some people who can't afford to get dressed up. There's some people who are walking in that church, barely walking because of the shame and the guilt that they're carrying, going, is there someone in here who will love me for me and show me hope? And to me, that's what the church, I am the church. You are the church. To me, my church goes with me everywhere I go. That building is where I go to fellowship. But my church is right here. I can be on the phone with one of you or sending an email or whatever, and we can have church because we're encouraging each other in the things of God. But when I walk in that building that we call church, that's where all of us believers belonging to the Lord come together to say, God loves you and he loves me just the way I am. Broken, abused, that's what he's saying. But there's hope if we fall at his feet,
Yeah, and I think, go ahead, Deborah.
When someone starts talking about the church being full of hypocrites, in all honesty, I love it. Because it's a perfect opportunity for you to really share the gospel and be able to say to people, listen, if it wasn't for God's grace, you know, yes, we all have issues, we all have things that we're struggling with, and it's all because of His grace. And so I think as believers, we shy away a lot of times from certain situations because of the way people respond. But Barbara, when when you're able, as Kristen said, to be able to be honest with people and say, these are the mistakes I've made and these are the things that I've done, but God has forgiven me and He will forgive you. And you know what? Don't worry about it. You don't have to have the right outfit. You can wear those jeans and those tennis shoes and that T-shirt. Talk about relevancy. Who wants to wear a three-piece suit in 99-degree weather
Amen
in
to that,
Florida?
sister.
You know, and pantyhose.
Yeah.
Get
Come
over
on.
it.
Preach.
Set me free, sister. Set me free.
But to be able to say to people, listen, you don't have to do any of that. Just come with me one time. And I tell people, don't come to my church if you don't want to get stuck. Because you will
That's
get.
good.
I tell them that all the time.
That's
If you have a church and you love it, stay where you
better
are.
stay.
Because you come over here, you're gonna love it.
I heard this
Yes.
statement the other day, and I thought it was so good when we talk about the church being relevant. You know, religiosity is about, being religious is about loving a lot of people. Oh, I love all of you. But relationships are messy, and it means you actually have to care and get involved in someone's life. And I want to give this praise report really quick. Last Tuesday night, my sister-in-law gave her life to Christ. And it wasn't in a church building. It was just through a building of relationship over time. And she kept apologizing. I'm so sorry to dump all this. And I'm like, no, please dump more. This is God's grace and His freedom and His healing and His truth working. It's seeing God alive and being present in your day-to-day. But it takes caring. It takes face-to-face. It takes asking, how are you doing? What's going on with your life? And being ready to respond to that immediate need and share the hope that we have within us. And so, but she got turned off. She walked away from God for years, battled with drug addiction, battled with depression, was a single mom before she met my brother. And she was hopeless. She almost died many, many times. And God saved her life, I know, for such a time as this. But she grew up in a very religious, traditional church where there were so many rules, regulations, and so much hypocrisy. And unfortunately, it turned her away. But she knew as a child that there was a real God and that He was chasing after her. And that's what people want this day and age, is a real Jesus.
Come on, authenticity.
So
Bring it on.
the church is relevant, according to the
Amen.
panel today, right?